handover for the Swift Select 122. We'll begin with the cab section first of all. You have an external flap for the filler cap. With the ignition key, you can put that into there and you can open up the filler cap and put in your diesel. Below that, these have the AdBlue system as well. There'll be an indicator coming on your dashboard should that require topping up. When you open the cab door, there's a couple of features that you need to be aware of. First of all, underneath the carpet section here is your engine battery. Below the passenger seat, you have your vehicle toolbox. And on the head of the dashboard, you have your bonnet release. Having released the bonnet internally, you should be able to pull up on the yellow lever there, stock up, like so. Over on the left-hand side, you've got your screen washer. You've then got your radiator and brake fluid points and a service point for the oil. And then should you ever require to jump start the vehicle, then to protect it, there's a positive contact there and a negative up in the center of the engine bay, like so. On the driver's side of the vehicle, you've got ventilation for the back of the fridge. Next door, you've got a external flap for the external shower. Toilet cassette. Flush water comes from the onboard fresh water tank, so you only need to worry about the cassette itself. Having made sure that the flap is shut internally, there'll be a cap that you remove and you can then tip up and allow all of the waste to be discharged out of the top. Before you load it back in, use the cap again with green chemical for the Highlands or sachet and about 2 litres of water. Give it a little swirl round and then load it back in accordingly. Exhaust for the blown air room heating system, so make sure that's not obstructed, and your mains hook up alongside. With the main system, it's important that you connect to this side of the van first of all, and then connect to the power point, power supply that you're going to be using. That is the external drain for the wastewater that has an electric solenoid on it, which we'll show you later on in the handover. You have an external flap for a barbecue point, so you can use the gas from within the vehicle. Make sure that that's not being used underneath the awning. Freshwater filler cap and flap, so lift up the flap with the key, unlock and hose pipe in. You have the option of an external 12-volt socket, so if you wanted to use a submersible and pump the water in like so. And then your freshwater outlet, again also solenoid controlled as well. When you open up the sliding door, you've got a step, and that step can be controlled from the switch below. That will also retract on ignition. An important thing to notice with the water cap, a little bit of design fault from Swift. When this is up, you have to be very, very careful that you don't suddenly decide to jump into the van whilst you're trying to fill up with water, because it will take this lid off. Fuel on restore awning, tee up into the slot and then turn the awning handle accordingly. Wind your awning out to a midpoint that you can comfortably reach the legs. They're spring loaded up into the pelmet, so push in gently and you should be able to bring the leg down, and then to lock the leg into position, just push back nice and firmly. When they're new, they feel a little bit brittle, and then wind the awning out the rest of the way and drop the other leg down as well. These are sunshades. Wet or windy conditions, you need to put them away. Back in on the lever. Make sure that the leg is against the inside of the pelmet edge, foot plate I should say, and then wind the awning back in accordingly. When you first come into the van, you've got the 12-volt control panel above the sliding door. Very simple to operate. There is a central on-off switch. When you turn it on, it initially lights up all of the lamps, and then you'll see various features become available. At the moment, it's giving you feedback information as to the condition of your leisure battery. By pressing the vehicle battery one at the opposite end, you will give you your vehicle condition. If you are plugged into mains, then you have the ability to charge the engine battery via the main system, or utilize and use the vehicle battery as an alternative 12-volt source of power. The caveat being to that is obviously that the engine battery will deplete at a far faster rate than the leisure battery. So for the rest of this, we will use the leisure battery as our supply. Other features that you've got on here, when you press the levels gauge on this one, it will give you your fresh water, your wastewater, and also simultaneously your vehicle and leisure battery levels. You have a separate switch for your outside awning light above the sliding door. You have a switch for your tank heater, so any tanks that are exposed on the underside of the vehicle have an element that's going to those. And then you have a master switch for your interior 12-volt lights. That works in conjunction with other light switches which are located around the inside of the vehicle. When you open up the cupboard above the hob, you'll notice two switches in the back. They're in the green position. These are the solenoid switches for the fresh and wastewater tanks. If you flick the switch to the red, you may hear the solenoid opening up underneath, and that will start the discharge process on the tank that you have selected. Leave those open for winter storage. When you open up the bed box on the off side, you have got this Sargent control panel. This is both your mains and 12-volt circuit board. On the main system, you should have all of the switches switched away from you, indicating that you've got the main supply coming in. You can do a circuit breaker test to make sure that the main supply is safe for you to use by pressing in on this test switch, and if it immediately trips out, that suggests that it's okay for you to continue operating. It's a separate green switch at the back for the battery charger. So to recap from before, whichever battery you select will be the batteries that will be charged from the mains. If you're going to be using the water heater on mains electric, or the room heating system on mains electric, then this one will need to be illuminated for that to work. There is a master switch shut down for the 12-volt system on here. If we switch this one off, it'll turn off all of the 12-volt system in the back of the vehicle. That will also prevent the alternator from charging the leisure battery when the vehicle is in motion. In front of it, you've got a bank of 12-volt fuses for the interior operation. There's a menu down on this side. This has got quite a smart system on it. If one of these fuses blows, then there's a corresponding LED that will come on underneath it, indicating which switch or which fuse has blown. So it makes it tracing a fault much easier to do. Next door to the Sargent unit, you have your water heater. On this particular model, you have a manual drain valve for winter storage. So at the moment it's in a horizontal position. That's allowing the water to be purged through the tank so that it can then be heated up. But for winter storage, you would lift it to a vertical position and you'll hear the water then discharging out underneath the van. Return it back to the horizontal position when you want to recommission the water heater. In the cupboard beneath the oven, over on the left-hand side of that cupboard, you'll see a bank of isolator taps. They are color-coded. There's a little white label down here. Position that they're in at the moment is allowing the gas flow to go through to the individual appliances, such as the hob, the fridge, and the water heater. But if you turn them through 90 degrees, as I'll indicate with the one for the fridge, then it isolates the supply to that specific appliance, which you might do from a service point of view. If you've just refilled the gas system, or if you've changed the gas bottle over, it's beneficial to burn some gas off on the hob. So choose the largest burner, use the electronic igniter, and then draw the gas through the system accordingly. You light up the grill and the oven in a similar fashion. These have got cutouts on them, so if this comes down over the flame, it will cause the gas flow to cut out. However, if they are still hot, they can still damage the glass. Make sure the lid is right back, turn the appliance off, and you should be able to then reset and turn the gas unit back on again. For the grill and the oven, having removed all the flammable materials first of all, make sure that you turn it all the way around, and in one position it will work as your oven, and if you turn it right the way back through to the opposite direction, it will then work as the grill. With your water system, you have a control switch, a pump switch on the panel. Recommend that you use the water pump on demand. We've just recommissioned this water heating system because of the cold weather. You turn the pump on, draw water through on the cold and on the hot respectively. If the hot water system had been drained down, you might hear hissing, spitting or spurging as it draws the water through. You would need to do that before you started using the water heater, and I would recommend that you do that on the vanity unit and on the shower tray as well. Water heating, room heating system. These can be connected to a smartphone, so you can use them with an app from Truma. To turn on the unit, press in on the button and you'll see a series of characters come up on this row here. First character that you come to is for your room temperature. Select on that one and you can turn it up to your desired output. We'll turn it all the way up to the maximum, which is 30 degrees centigrade. Whilst the unit is trying to heat up, you might notice that this flame symbol on the top row starts to flash. Once it becomes a solid symbol, then it indicates that the vehicle has reached the temperature that you've chosen. It's a similar story for the water system. Select onto the water tap. And again, you can do the same thing. You can heat the water up to approximately 40 or 60 degrees, or you can boost it between the two settings. But whilst it's trying to achieve that temperature output, you'll again see that flash onto there. Your energy selection, you have a choice of different ways of using it. If you're wild camper, you could use it on the gas. You can also use it on an electric 1 or electric 2 setting, and they turn on a high and a low amperage electric element, mains electric element that you can utilize for heating the water up. In colder weather conditions, you have the option of using that in conjunction with the gas, either as a high or an electric output. Fan control on the end will work with the blown air heating system, but if you turn off all the heating and water heating, it will also work just as a circulation fan on its own. You can set up a clock to give you time indications, and having set that, you can then go back and you can set up a start and a finish time, and all of the tasks that you do on your water heating or room heating system can be put onto a basic timer. To switch the appliance off, press and hold in for a couple of seconds and you should see the words off appear, and that will shut the appliance down. Finally, you've got a settings control which you can use for resetting the appliance if needs be, adjusting the brightness of the control panels and such like. For its controls, you have on the left hand side a switch for turning the appliance on and off. Tap it on it for a couple of seconds and it should light up the appliance. You'll see all of the indicators light up briefly. You have different modes that you can use on this. This is a 3-way fridge, so there is a 12-volt mode which will draw energy from the alternator to maintain the temperature within the fridge whilst you are traveling. There is a gas mode that you can utilize when you are wild camping, and a mains mode for mains hookup. The auto function will self-select what it thinks is the strongest source available. You can leave it in auto mode and it will detect, or you can manually change over. If there is a fault, i.e. in this instance we're unable to locate the engine battery because the engine's not running, then you'll hear an alarm sound. So we'll change it over to the gas mode. Self-ignition, no further intervention required, and as long as it can find the gas supply, then this light will remain constant and it's running on the gas. Thermostatic adjustment is done via this one. The more of the light dots that are visible, the colder the fridge will become. The roof lights in the back, both the large and small one, operate in a similar fashion. So push in on the tab, draw the handle down, and then you can set it into a variety of different locations or fully open if you so wish. There are fly screens and blinds that you can utilise for day or nighttime use. And then to reset, just make sure that the handle comes back down, push up firmly so that it clears the button that you first pressed to lock the roof light back into position. On the side windows and the rear windows, you have ratchet systems on the stays. So release all of your latches. Push out on the window, you will probably hear a click as it engages on the first position, and so on and so forth. You will need to push beyond the ratchet positions in order for the windows to close back in at any position. Just before the windows fully close, you can leave it in a ventilated position like so, but for traveling they must be on the innermost latch. The window on the passenger side behind the sliding door does not open because of the sliding door mechanism. To start up the vehicle, make sure you have your foot on the brake pedal first of all, and then you should be able to turn over. The needles go right over, and then you should be able to start the vehicle accordingly. The new steering wheel controls have the features on for your radio and phone controls, as well as your speed limiter and cruise control systems. You have a light switch on the left-hand stalk, and then your indicators are also on that stalk as well, back for main beam. The opposing stalk has your wiper controls as well as your rinse functions. On the driver's door, you've got your electric windows and also your electric mirrors, so you can adjust and use the toggle then to maneuver the mirrors accordingly, including your blind spot mirrors as well. You've also got blinds on these. These ones you open up, draw the blind firmly round, and there is a latch that it can drop back into to secure it. For the cab blind at the front, it comes up centrally and then sits up into a lock position near the top, like so. The new stereo controls are all touchscreen, so you can go into the various different options and app applications to utilize. So if you want to connect it to satellite navigation, then use the one through your Android or Apple phone. Ventilation controls are controlled on the dials below with temperature, speed, direction, and airflow out or recirculation, as well as your air conditioning button into the middle. Stereo button has relocated down to the lower level now on these, so it can be turned on and off or just used as a mute button, and you can then use the central button as your volume control. You still have your heated mirrors and then a central locking function, as well as your ASR traction control system. USB charging points and 12-volt charging points. Glove box has still got ventilation coming into it from the air conditioning unit, so you can use it as a mini fridge if required, and you've also got a lower box as well. There's an additional USB port above the cup holders. This one is connected into the interface for the head unit. That concludes your handover for the Select 122. Sincerely hope this van is going to give you lots of miles and lots of smiles. On behalf of Hire and Camper Vans, thank you very much for watching.